Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was summoned into the Holy Grail War, and the forbidden Kunoichi desires awakened around him. Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. The world had been saved from Kaguya, Madara, and Obito, and Naruto was praised throughout the elemental nations as the hero who saved the world. He'd even managed to beat the Sasuke's, and convinced him to let go of his stupid revolution crap. Peace between nations had already been achieved, there really was no point in having a revolution after the goal of the revolution had already been accomplished. Seriously, it was almost like Sasuke thought that every single resident of the elemental nations was a war-hungry maniac. Anyway, so yeah, peace had been achieved, everything was going along just fine, and there was no doubt that Naruto was going to be the next Hokage. Only, it turned out that he was too immature or something to be the Hokage at the time and he needed to get wiser before he could put on that awesome hat. PFF'd, whatever. So, Kakashi, the sixth Hokage, gave him two choices. Travel the world like Sasuke or stay in village, do missions and gain experience the way shinobi usually did. At first, the choice was obvious. There was no way in hell he was going to do the same thing that Sasuke did. He could just imagine the smug look on that bastard's face when he found out that he, the great and amazing Uzumaki Naruto, had copied Sasuke of all people. However, the more he thought about it, the more appealing that option became. The years spent traveling with Jiraiya had been few of the most fun years he had ever experienced. It's not like he hated the village, on the contrary, he loved it. It's just that he wanted to travel for a while. So he told his sensei and left to once again travel all around the elemental nations. He made a huge list of places that he wanted to go to and set off, but within a mere month, inside an ancient Otsutsuki shrine, he ran into a familiar face. Huh, Sasuke, whatcha doin' here? Naruto casually greeted his wayward friend. That's my question, dumbass. I decided to travel the world, remember? Finding me outside of Konoha shouldn't be that surprising. More importantly, are you here for a mission? Sasuke asked. Not really, I also decided to travel the world, Naruto responded. Contrary to his expectations, Sasuke did not flash him a smug grin, but even then, he could feel that, I am above you, obviously you would follow my footsteps, look coming from Sasuke. Naruto clenched his fists and tensed his muscles to punch Sasuke in the face, but before he could even back his fist, Kakashi-sensei's voice rang out in his mind. Above all, you need to learn patience and discipline, only then can you become Hokage. Damn it, Naruto quietly whispered to himself and relaxed his fists. Sasuke waited until Naruto was done cycling through multiple different faces and emotions before he waved his hand to gestured at his surroundings and asked, "What are you doing here, Naruto? This doesn't seem like your kind of place." Naruto allowed his eyes to wander around the room, and noticed that entire room was bare, gloomy, and the only visible point of interest was the Otsutsuki clan symbol on the wall. This does seem your kind of place though. All doom and gloom. Not to mention that chakra leaking out from that symbol that feels kind of like your six paths chakra, he pointed out. Sasuke's eyes subtly twitched. Naruto continued, anyway, I thought that traveling the world would be fun and stuff, but it turns out that I've already been almost everywhere. It's so boring. I even made a list of all the places I wanted to visit, but it barely took me around half a day to get to all of them. How many places were on that list? Sasuke asked. Let me check. Naruto rustled through his pockets a bit before he took out a small, folded up piece of paper. 25, he answered after a few seconds. Sasuke sighed. Naruto, traveling the world doesn't mean getting to all your destinations as fast as possible. You don't need to use your Kyuubi chakra mode. He scowled. By the way, that still doesn't answer the question of why you're here. Naruto frowned and squinted his eyes. I knew that. I've traveled the world before too, you know. I spent the next 2 weeks just walking aimlessly and grew so bored that I used my sage mode to sense if there was anything interesting going on. I sensed the chakra leaking from this symbol and rushed here. I didn't realize you were here too since that chakra is so similar to yours. He paused and sighed, but it looks like there's nothing here either, it's just a symbol leaking chakra. I'm so bored. Sasuke turned towards the symbol and asked Naruto, and you don't think a symbol leaking chakra is odd? Naruto opened an eye. Of course I think it's weird, but this is the Otsutsuki clan we're talking about. Anything that has something to do with them is weird. He waved his hand as if there was a fly in front of his face. Plus, it looks harmless. The two spent a few beats in silence before Naruto smashed his fist into his palm and let out a megawatt smile. I got it. If there's nothing new to explore here, then I'll just go and explore different dimensions. Come on Sasuke, help me out. Sasuke sighed again and glared at Naruto. No. Traveling through dimensions is too dangerous. Ah, come on. Naruto interrupted, it'll be fine. Just once. Please. Please. Sasuke's eyes twitched rapidly while he simultaneously debated the pros and cons of Naruto's plan and ignored his incessant begging. After a few minutes, Sasuke opened mouth, fine. But you have to agree to this condition. I will only do this once. Got it, only once. You don't bother me about this ever again. That's the deal, take it or leave it. Naruto jumped around in excitement. I knew you'd see it my way, Sasuke. Thanks. Sasuke let out a tiny smile at Naruto's enthusiasm before he wiped it away so that the blonde wouldn't notice. He activated his Rinnegan and started gathering his chakra. Ready? He asked. Naruto smirked, let out an enthusiastic, of course. Sasuke responded with a smirk of his own and started teleporting Naruto to a relatively close dimension that he could easily access, but unfortunately for the duo, the symbol that they had previously disregarded as harmless, acted up and interfered with Sasuke's teleportation technique. Sasuke fought with all his might to shut off his teleportation technique, but the intruding chakra simply wouldn't let him. Shit. I can't stop the technique. Naruto, you have to be careful. I have no idea what dimension you'll end up in. Try your best to find a way back. Naruto grimaced before a full-blown smirk overtook his face. Don't worry Sasuke. I'll be back in no time. I was the one who said I was bored, so who knows? This may end up being fun. Sasuke responded with a cynical grin of his own before the technique exploded and sent him tumbling back. He rose to his feet in an instant, in hopes that maybe the technique hadn't worked after all, but when he scanned the room, Naruto was nowhere to be seen. Naruto suddenly shot up from the ground with a gasp. What happened? He asked. He turned his head and came face to face with his lifelong partner. Kurama, realizing that Naruto was fully awake, brought its head back and sat on the ground with his hind legs crossed. Naruto, on the other hand, stood up and looked around in confusion. I'm in my mindscape. What do you think? No place is fouler than your mind, so you should have no trouble recognizing it. Naruto stood there blankly for a few seconds before he took in Kurama's words and yelled in indignation, Oi! My mind is not foul. Kurama nodded his head patronizingly, of course it isn't. Naruto nodded in satisfaction, glad you understand. Now tell me what happened, Kurama. The last thing I remember is me being pulled into another world and then, darkness. There's nothing after that. Kurama narrowed his eyes and started explaining. The first place we ended up in after teleporting was in a giant fire. He sighed, if I wasn't stuck in you, I could be having so much fun crushing these puny humans right now. I haven't done that in so long. Naruto coughed into his hand. Focus, Kurama. Kurama sighed again and continued, right. After landing in that giant fire, I thought that you would start saving as many people as soon as possible. However, when you failed to respond to all the fire and dying people around you, I thought that you had finally lost the last shred of intelligence that you had left in you. Oi, anyway, when I took a closer look, it turns out that your mind had been reverted to that of a 7-year-old's. Not only that, but at the time your previous experiences and memories had been stored away, so all you could basically do at the time was walk around and die like an idiot. Lucky for you, I was there to save your scrawny. Naruto let out a confused expression. Huh? What do you mean? Kurama face-palmed. I mean that since you clearly couldn't control your body, I took control and helped you survive until someone came to save you. Naruto let his bangs shadow his eyes and asked in a quiet voice, what about the rest of the people there? He raised his head to look at the fox. Did you save them? The two spent a few beats staring at each other in silence before Kurama broke the tense silence. There was nothing I could have done. Don't make excuses, Kurama. Give me bullshi. Calm down, Naruto. The reason I couldn't save those pathetic meat bags was because of you. Look at yourself. Your brain wasn't the only thing that reverted back to a childlike state. Naruto looked down at himself and finally noticed something odd. Where there should have been a 17-year-old muscular body, there was a small body of a 7-year-old child. What the hell is this? Kurama roared with laughter. Ha 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 ha. He slapped his leg with a resounding boom. Oh my god. This is priceless. The vanquisher of Kagaya and savior of the elemental nations, reduced to a little child throwing a tantrum. I wasn't throwing a tantrum. Naruto defended. I beg to differ. Naruto shot the giant fox a nasty glare that didn't quite have the effect he was hoping for due to his childlike body. Continuing on, even I don't know where you are right now, all I know is that hey. Are you even listening, you dumb brat? I'm screwed, Naruto groaned. I'm so screwed. What do I do? It's gonna take me twice as long to make it to Hokage now. What to do? Plus, this is kind of creepy. I'm physically 7 but mentally 17. Sakura's gonna kill me. Oi, brat, Kurama tried. I mean, she always hits me when I do stupid things, but this is stupidity multiplied by, like, 1,000,000. Brat, Kurama tried again. And I can't even blame Sasuke since he was the one who kept on rambling about how, it's not SAAAAFE. Why did things turn out this way? I should've. Brat, good, you're finally listening. First of all, you're both mentally and physically 7 years old. Your brain has also regressed to that age. Why do you think you had that giant tantrum just now? Although considering the fact that you're, I guess the fact that you acting like a child isn't really that out of character. Naruto would have retorted, but he was too confused to do so. Kurama sighed once again. That's what I mean. While you were dumb when you were older, you would have still understood that. That's what I mean by mentally 7 years old. Once again your brain hasn't been fully developed, meaning that you're sorely lacking in things like attention span and information retention right now. It would be more accurate to call you a 7-year-old with the experience of a 17-year-old. Naruto scrunched up his face even more. I still don't get it. Basically you're gonna go through stuff like puberty again, Kurama simplified. Naruto made a face of horrified realization and yelled in dismay, no. Why? I never should have asked that bastard to send me here. Why did I make such a stupid mistake? Don't worry, Kurama calmed him. I'm sure that Uchiha bastard and the rest of your puny village are probably trying to find a way to get you back right now. For now, just wake up and explore this new world. You were bored, right? Naruto's face suddenly broke out in an enthusiastic grin. Right. Let's see just what kind of world the great and amazing Uzumaki Naruto has arrived in. With that, Naruto once again closed his eyes and willed himself to consciousness. Naruto slowly cracked open his eyes and took in the clean white ceiling above him. Where, at that exact moment, his nose decided to do its job and gave him an answer. Antiseptics. Which meant, the hospital. How did Naruto started asking himself before his conversation with Kurama came rushing back to him. He put his arm over his eyes and whispered to himself. Damn it, we messed up really badly this time. A gentle voice interrupted his quiet lament. Hello, child. My name is Dr. Mayers. Naruto uncovered his eyes, sat up, and looked towards where the voice came from. At his left sat a middle-aged, brown-haired woman in a white doctor's coat. Are you talking to me? He asked hesitantly. Dr. Mayers chuckled. Who else do you think I was talking to? Naruto rubbed the back of his head and let out a sheepish chuckle. Ah, sorry, my name is Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto. Also, I don't really recognize this place. Where am I and what happened? The doctor sighed sadly and looked at Naruto with slightly moist eyes. Oh, you poor child. To suffer from such a tragedy at such a young age. The doctor thought about the incident for a moment and then continued. No one actually knows what happened. All we know is that a fire just spontaneously appeared in the dead of the night, and before we knew it, the fire had spread far beyond anyone's control. You were the only survivor. Naruto closed his eyes in silent prayer for the dead before he quietly replied. I see. The two spent a few minutes in silence before Dr. Mayers spoke up once again. Naruto-kun, we gave you a full body checkup and made sure to help you recover in any way possible, and let me tell you, you recovered abnormally fast, but please try moving and tell me whether it hurts anywhere. Naruto grinned, hopped off his bed, and did a little dance. Hey. I feel perfectly fine. Suddenly he froze and thought to himself, no, there's something wrong. Something's missing, but what is it? Everything feels fine, except for my chakra. He sat on the ground in a lotus position and tried to force his near unlimited supply of chakra to the surface. No way. I can't use even a little bit no matter how hard I try. Dr. Mayers knelt to inspect the blonde boy and asked hurriedly, what's wrong? Does it hurt anywhere? The blonde let out a nervous smile and assuaged her fears. It's just I can feel my chakra, but I can't utilize it no matter what. Dr. Mayers raised a brow. Your chakra? She asked. You dumbass. Kurama's voice rang out in his head like a particularly loud gong. Give me control, I'll handle this, he said. Naruto tried to let up his control to give Kurama free rein, but no matter hard they both tried, it just would not happen. What the hell is going on, Kurama? Naruto internally panicked. Naruto-kun, are you okay? What's going on? Dr. Mayers asked. Kurama quickly analyzed the situation and gave him instructions. Naruto, for now just tell her that nothing's wrong. I'll tell you everything later. Naruto didn't verbally acknowledge Kurama, but when Dr. Mayers once again asked whether or not he was alright, he made sure to follow the tailed beast's instructions. I'm fine, Dr. Mayers, it's just that I'm really surprised that I'm not injured at all. Dr. Mayers' expression turned even more confused. And what was that chakra thing about? Naruto rubbed the back of his head and let out a nervous laugh. Chakra. Right, that was something I saw in my dream. I accidentally confused that with the real world. The worried doctor let herself relax and let out a sigh of relief. Hey, I'm glad you're having such nice dreams, but enough of that now, you should get some more rest, your body was actually in a pretty bad condition, you know. Naruto jumped back on top of his bed and gave her a large smile. Yes, ma'am. And with that he closed his eyes and once again entered his mindscape. Inside his mindscape, Naruto lost all traces of the smile he previously had and turned towards Kurama's giant form. What the hell is happening, Kurama? The massive tailed beast frowned. It seems that this world doesn't know what chakra is. Naruto let out an indignant snort. I know that. What I'm asking about is my chakra. What happened? In fact, now that I think about it, even if my body was that of a 7-year-old's, if you could use my chakra, then you could have gotten me out of that fire in an instant. So why didn't you? Or could it be that you couldn't use chakra? The fox rubbed his chin for a while, then explained, when I took control of your body, the first thing I tried was using my chakra to get away as fast as possible. The problem though, was that I couldn't. No matter how much I tried, I couldn't use your chakra, nor could I use mine. Not only that, but the longer I stayed in control of your body, the more it rejected and fought me. He narrowed his ruby eyes. I didn't think that the rejection would be permanent. We both still have all our chakra, but for some reason, we just can't use it. That's also the reason we're not dead from the lack of chakra. Naruto plopped down on the floor and scrunched up his face. Do you have any other super important things you haven't told me yet? Yes, actually. Really. Kurama touched the surface of the water with the tip of his finger in front of Naruto, and the ripples that formed gave way to the form of a shady man with black hair with a black trench coat. Naruto looked at the picture in confusion, before he turned his head back towards Kurama and raised a brow, hoping for an explanation. This is the man who saved you. Hold on, I'll show you the memory. Kurama once again touched the surface of the water with the tip of his finger, and once again, as soon as the ripples cleared, the water reflected a picture. However, this time a burning landscape appeared instead of a shady man. Get comfortable and watch. Suddenly the flames in the picture started crackling erratically, and with a thud, the view jerked violently as if the person holding the camera dropped it or collapsed. Thankfully the place that they fell in was devoid of fire. There was no doubt though, that in time, the flames would reach that place as well. For a few minutes, fire roared all around them, and all they could see was the orange glow of the flames in the starry sky. The orange glow kept getting brighter and brighter, but before it could reach them, the same shady man in black filled up their field of vision and gasped in surprise and happiness. You're alive. You're alive. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so GL. Before they could keep hearing the shady man continue thanking him again, the scene turned black and then back into clear water. At this point your body lost consciousness, and, to be honest, I was barely able to keep you alive at that point, and if it wasn't for that, you would be. Kurama pointed at a blindingly bright golden sheath that were adorned with extravagant engravings and designs. What is that? Naruto asked. At first I thought it was a sheath of some sort, but the more I examined it, the more I realized that in addition to it being a sheath, it's also some kind of powerful item that has a healing ability on par with mine. There might be more functions to it, but on the whole, healing you is the only effect it has had on you. Naruto tried to digest all that, but it took him several minutes before he finally managed to completely comprehend Kurama's explanation. Working with a 7-year-old brain. So this sheath had saved him from death because it had amazing healing powers, huh? Having something like this would probably make his life much easier, and combine that with Kurama's own healing power. Oi Kurama, does this mean that your healing power and that sheath's healing power can combine and give me some kind of unlimited healing power? That would be so awesome. I'm right. Naruto shot up and asked excitedly. Kurama, however, did not share Naruto's enthusiasm. Naruto, it's the complete opposite. That sheath has already run out of power and my chakra can barely affect you at the moment. This means that you'll barely have a higher than average healing rate because of my power. Well whatever. Even without chakra he was still a badass warrior that could beat anyone. He didn't need any special abilities to do it. Still, it would have been nice to have some kind of special power to help him out. Kurama suddenly perked up. Because that sheath was inserted in you, you gained some kind of new network for a different power source. Naruto shot back up. Really? Kurama nodded before continuing. However, even if you have the network, there's no way for you to use that new power, simply because it's stuck in the same situation as your chakra network. Naruto sunk back down to the ground. Damn it, Kurama. Stop playing with my emotions. This meant that all had to rely on were his mind and physical strength. He had to hone those so that he could do what? Was it even necessary to know how to fight in this world? Did this world even allow fighting? Plus, he knew that Sasuke and the others were trying to find a way to get him back, but he wanted to help out too. Without chakra or any source of power that could allow him to travel dimensions, his desire to help was useless. Wait, what if traveling dimensions was commonplace in this world? Arg, thinking about this stuff would get him nowhere. He needed to first gather some information, and the first step to that was to regain consciousness. Waking up on the hospital bed was mildly uncomfortable as he was still sleepy and bleary, but he had a goal in mind, so he really didn't have time to entertain such thoughts. Actually, maybe sleeping in just 5 more minutes wouldn't be such a huge problem. Naruto-kun. Clearly, Dr. Mayers disagreed. You woke up just in time, Naruto-kun. The man who saved you is here to see you, she said in a cheerful voice. That incredibly shady guy had come to visit him. Why? Well, that guy did look pretty happy that he managed to save a child, so maybe he deserved a chance to improve his image. The black-haired man walked in and his first words were, "I'm here to ask you a question. Would you rather be sent off to an orphanage or would you like to be adopted by a man you just met?" What the hell? That was way too creepy. He knew that the shady guy would be no good. Seriously, huh? Why did this guy seem so broken? Oi, if you look at me like that, there's no way I can refuse you, he thought. Always A for sob stories, huh? Kurama remarked. Shut up, the blonde shot back. He sighed and finally made his decision, I'll go with you. Orphanages anyway. Right, I should probably say this now. I'm a mage. What the hell is that? Oh, I. Naruto, wake up. It's almost time for school and you're still sleeping. Damn it, why did Fujine have to be so loud? Didn't she know that sleep was vital to the human body? And don't even try to give me that excuse of sleep being vital to the human body. You slept at, 7 last night. Fujine's voice rang out from the living room again. Well, that excuse just became useless. Still, I refuse to wake up no matter what. Come on, hurry up. Sakura even made some ramen for you. Change of plans. I'll be right there, Fujine. Sakura, marry me. Naruto slammed his empty bowl on the table. This is the second best ramen I have ever tasted. Sakura looked downcast. Only second best. Fujine took her chance and jumped into the conversation. You really shouldn't be eating that for breakfast though. Don't you know it's unhealthy, especially in the amounts you eat it in? She's right, you know. Kurama agreed. With most of my healing factor gone, large amounts of ramen is actually harmful for your body. Naruto slumped to the floor. Why? I love ramen and ramen loves me. So why is it that we can't be together? Tears streamed down his face. Fujine, on the other hand, gave a bright smile and clapped her hands together. Well, the food was good and making Ittle Whittle Naruto cry was even better, but I've got tests to grade, so I'll be going now. Naruto watched her speed off and sighed. What's with her? Why's she so mean? Sakura too brushed off her gloom. Don't say that, senpai. Fujimura-sensei had to actually leave much earlier to grade her tests, but she stayed behind and kept trying to wake you up because she was worried that you might oversleep and miss school. Naruto watched her as she gathered the plates and walked through the flap separating the kitchen. Thanks for helping out, Sakura. She turned on the tap and started cleaning the dishes. It was my pleasure, senpai. Naruto responded. He spent a few minutes in silence, watching her work until Kurama decided to ask a question. Whatcha looking at, Sakura? Why? Naruto answered. I knew you that your perverted tendencies would resurface someday. I'm so proud of you, brat. Shut up, Kurama. I was just watching her work. Sure. Anyway, come in your mindscape as soon as you have the time. There's something important I have to tell you. Can't you just tell me now? No, this is big and I need make sure you have no distractions nearby. Gotcha. Math class, then. Sakura put the last plate on the drying rack and turned off the tap. Let's go, senpai. Yeah. Homurahara Academy was a school that required all students to wear their uniforms properly and did not tolerate students who did not wear them. As such, Naruto too was forced to wear the drab brown uniform, although he did unbutton it as much as the school would allow 3 buttons. Underneath the uniform, he wore a plain black shirt and below that he wore brown school pants along with gray sneakers. Stupid teachers calling his awesome orange shirts too eye-catching. I mean they let that one girl with the flashy red jacket do what she wanted. What was up with that? When he asked, they told him that she was one of the best students in the school, so she was allowed certain privileges. Talk about unfair. As the two walked through the gate, Sakura asked a question. Senpai, can I ask you something? Naruto looked at her, confused. Sure. Why did you quit the archery club, senpai? I mean I know when you started, you were incredibly bad, but as time went on, you practiced and got to the point where could hit all the targets in record speed. You tried so hard and then, you just quit. Why? Naruto looked at her with a wise and serene smile, but was panicking on the inside. Kurama roared with laughter. Go on, tell the girl who looks up to you that you quit the club you worked so hard in because of some ramen. It's much more complicated than that. Naruto retorted. Is it? It's literally that customers who order on that time, in that restaurant, receive a massive discount on ramen. Sakura, a man must pursue his passions, and sometimes pursuing one passion means not pursuing another, he sagely nodded and explained. Don't look so smug, all you did was rip off Kuritsugu's, saving one person means not saving another, speech. Shish, look at her shining eyes of admiration. I'm surprised you even know what admiration means, Kurama muttered. I see senpai, Sakura said with sparkling eyes. You're so wise in the ways of the world. She continued. Naruto rubbed his imaginary beard. I know. Sakura bowed her head a little. I'll be going now, senpai. The blonde waved his hand as she ran off. Yeah, see you at dinner. Only, now it meant that he was all alone and had nothing to do. He couldn't even go to the archery club after giving that cool speech of his. Damn it. The only reason he even came to school this early was because Sakura had club activities, and since she made breakfast, he wanted to do something for her too. Well, Kurama had something important to tell him, and he had nothing to do. Going to homeroom and hearing Kurama out was probably the best course of action to take right now. Yo, Issei, Naruto called out to his longtime friend. Ah, Naruto, you made it to class too early, Issei noted. Yeah, Sakura had club activities today and I decided to leave with her, Naruto explained. Well, I would love to stay and chat, but as the student council president, I have to make sure to inspect all the clubs and their activities. I'll see you later in homeroom, Issei said. Sure. Issei stood up from his desk and walked out the door, giving the whiskered teen a small wave as he passed him. Naruto watched Issei walk off for a bit before he sat down in his designated seat and put his head on the table. He closed his eyes and materialized himself inside his mindscape. So, what's this super important thing that you wanted me to know? He asked impatiently. There's something big going on, Naruto, Kurama's voice boomed. Said blonde cleaned his ear uncaringly. How do you figure that? A few days ago, I felt a giant spike of negative emotions. A few minutes later, those very same negative emotions spread out and covered the entirety of Fuyuki. They haven't disappeared since. Naruto grimaced. Sounds bad, but I can't sense magic and you can only sense where it's coming from, not what it's doing, so we can't do anything for now. Rushing blindly inside an entire city, searching for anything or anyone suspicious, won't get us any results. We don't need to search for anything, I'm just telling you to be on your guard since trouble always manages to find you somehow. You want your kicked again? I can arrange that for you, you know. Kurama grinned. How do you propose to do that without your chakra? Do you intend to stare me to submission? Maybe cry me into submission? Plus, even with your chakra, you stand no chance against me. Naruto's eye twitched rapidly. You bastard, I could totally take you down, even without my chakra. Kurama gave a patronizing nod. Sure you could. Naruto clenched his fists, but before he could do anything, Kurama abruptly started talking again. Anyway, be careful, Naruto. All these negative emotions are blocking my senses. For now, the only time I can sense negative emotions are when you're in close proximity with the target. Naruto thought about the fox's revelation for a while. That means that there's no way for me to tell whether someone's gonna try and kill me from the shadows, huh? Yeah, the situation's bad, so don't let your guard down, Kurama warned. Naruto slowly nodded, then willed himself back to consciousness. Ah, you're up. I was just about to wake you, Issei's voice called out from behind him. Really? What time is it? Naruto asked, yawning. Almost time for homeroom to start, Issei answered. Naruto sighed. Won't be long before Fuji-ne comes barreling in. He stretched his limbs a little, which produced a bunch of satisfying cracking sounds. Well, whatever. Let's get this day over with. Kuritsugu and a 12-year-old Naruto sat side by side on their porch and admired the shining full moon. You know, Naruto, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a superhero, Kuritsugu said. Naruto was confused. A superhero? Like what, you wanted powers or something? Cool entrances? A cape? Background music? Kuritsugu chuckled. No, none of that. Okay, maybe a few of those things, but that wasn't what I was talking about. By superhero, I meant I wanted to save everyone in the world. Everyone in the world? You said used to. Did you give up? Naruto asked. Yes. I got older and realized it was impossible to accomplish this dream of mine, Kuritsugu explained. Naruto raised a brow. Did you at least try? Kuritsugu flashed a bitter smile. Yeah. I tried my best to fix this world's problems. I tried my best to fix humanity's nature and their desire to kill each other, but, in the end, all I managed to do is hurt a lot of people. Naruto let out a laugh. Hey. Fix humanity? Is that what you were intending to do? Remove what makes us human? And what? Were you planning on changing every human yourself? To remove all the bad traits from a human means changing the person into something other than a human, you know. He paused for a second. And who knows? Maybe that's a good thing. Change doesn't always have to be bad. The problem, on the other hand, is that we're stuck with this. A species full of flaws and imperfections. A small smile lit up his face. I don't hate it though. Being a human isn't so bad. Having flaws and imperfections isn't so bad. Although, if you don't like it, then instead of trying to change them yourself, make them want to change. He reclined backwards. Of course there will always be bad people who simply kill out of pleasure or let their lust get the better of them. That doesn't mean the entirety of the human race is bad. Tragedies happen and they will continue to happen. The best we can do is inspire people to limit these tragedies. He looked at Kuritsugu with shining eyes. Have some faith in humanity. Sometimes just having faith is enough. The black-haired man closed his eyes and pondered over his adopted son's words. That's a very naive point of view. Naruto shrugged. What's wrong with being naive? If everyone in the world were naive, if everyone in the world had faith in each other, then the world be a much better place, don't you think? Kuritsugu looked at the blonde child. It would be, but this world is cruel. People don't have faith in one another. The naive ones would be crushed instantly. Naruto raised his arm towards the moon and clasped his fist. Perhaps, but that's why I said what I said. If this world is cruel, if this is the kind of world where people don't have faith in one another, then inspire them to. Inspire them to better themselves in the world. It might take generations and generations and we'll probably never reach perfection, but I think that's perfectly fine. Why? Naruto looked at Kuritsugu in the eyes and gave him a bright, toothy smile. Because we're human. Naruto, said boy blankly stared ahead before jolting. Fuji-ne, what were you doing? Just staring at the front door. Naruto let out a sheepish smile and rubbed the back of his head. Ah, I was just reminiscing. Did I really just waste the whole day reminiscing? I just said to not let down your guard, and what do you do? Space out 5 seconds after my warning. Damn it, Naruto. I'm serious. Don't let down your guard like that again. Kurama reprimanded. Ah, sorry. Fuji-ne broke up his mental conversation. Reminiscing? What about? Naruto stayed silent for a few seconds. About Kuritsugu. Fuji-ne looked surprised for a moment before she gave him a comforting smile. I see. She put her hands on his back and pushed him inside. Don't stand out here in the cold. Let's go inside, you need to start preparing dinner, she said in a peppy voice, drawing out the word, dinner. Naruto couldn't help but let out a content smile. This was a strange world full of things he had never seen. He'd lost a lot of his abilities and he'd been stranded away from his home for a long time now, but in return he'd gained a new family member. She was loud, annoying, infuriating, mean, a slacker, and always leeched off of him. But, for some reason she had still managed to find a way straight to his heart. While he'd been wary of everything and everyone in this new, foreign land, this girl had managed to bypass all his meager defenses and made herself at home at his very core. Sheesh, this woman, he whispered under his breath as they went through the door. What did you say? Fujine asked curiously. He flashed her a bright grin. Nothing. He paused for a second. Wait, I need to start preparing dinner. Why? The next morning it was the same routine, minus the waking up almost late part. Waking up early allowed Naruto to complete his everyday workout. He'd forgotten to do it yesterday, but he couldn't afford to slack of today too. His physical and mental abilities were the only weapons left in his arsenal, and not only that, but apparently there was something huge going on. And he knew that if something huge was going on, then there was no doubt that he too would somehow get involved in it. Even if he tried his best to stay out of it, he really had no luck in these matters. Well, whatever. All had to do now was prepare, he would deal with the rest later. With that thought, he walked into the living room and helped set up the table before he sat down himself. Here you go, senpai. Sakura set down the food with a polite smile. Thanks, Naruto politely replied before asking. By the way, where's Fujine? I didn't think she had it in her to skip breakfast. Ah, that. She said that she had a lot of work to finish so she couldn't stay behind and eat. Sakura too sat down and picked up her chopsticks. By the way, senpai. She seemed a little angry at you today. Do you have any idea why? Naruto jolted and let out a sheepish smile. Ah, that was my fault. During dinner she found out that I didn't pay attention in her class and completely missed her warnings about how dangerous it is to stay out late these days. Sakura smiled and sighed at the same time. You really shouldn't do that, senpai. You have to pay attention in your classes or you won't be successful in the future. His smile turned melancholic. Yeah, you're right. To be honest, that statement hit way too close to home. Mainly, it made him ask the question, what would he do when he found the way back home? This was a completely different world and he wasn't even sure he could find it again. When he left, he would have to say goodbye to all his friends and family forever. Sakura had a family here and she and Fujine had built their entire lives here. It would be cruel for him to force them to abandon all that. He didn't want to say goodbye though. He wanted to live with these guys till the end of his days. Why did he have to choose? Why couldn't he just live with both his families and introduce them to one another? Fate really was cruel. No, fate. He'd already denounced crap like that long ago. When he was 12 years old, he was much wiser than now. It didn't matter if something seemed impossible, he was Uzumaki Emiya Naruto. The number one most unpredictable ninja, and he would find a way, damn it. It might take a long time, but he would find a way. It was a promise, and Uzumaki Emiya Naruto never broke promises. Senpai, I'm sorry but I won't be able to help with dinner for a while after tonight. Is that okay? Sakura asked politely as she locked the front door behind her. Naruto grinned happily. Finally, he exclaimed, I was seriously worried that you had no one else to hang out with, but it looks like you're doing just fine. Sakura furiously shook her head. It's not like that, senpai. She denied vehemently. It's just that I have some personal business to attend to. She then proceeded to look at the ground and blushed. So I would appreciate it if you didn't get the wrong idea, she iterated shyly. Naruto looked taken aback. Alright, Sorry for assuming. Sakura turned her head back towards Naruto and nodded before noticing something. Senpai, your hand. Naruto raised his hand to look at it while Sakura leaned in closer to do the same. There, on his hand was a weird, faded, and red mark that Naruto was sure wasn't on his hand the night before. What is this? He wondered. Did I scratch myself or something? He tried to recall an incident where he hurt himself but couldn't. Sakura, on the other hand, kept worriedly staring at his hand and was about to offer him a bandage, but before she could, Naruto gave her a reassuring grin and said, "Don't worry about it, it doesn't hurt so it should fade away soon." Sakura hesitantly nodded, still a little unconvinced, but after taking another look at the blonde's grinning face, she let her suspicions disappear. "If you say so, senpai." With that, she turned around to head to school. Naruto watched her, and as soon as she faced her back to him, his cerulean eyes narrowed dangerously and his bright grin morphed into a grim frown. Sakura started speaking to him about various topics again, but he ignored her. It wasn't as if he wanted to, but this matter with the red mark was a whole lot more important. "Kurama, did I hurt myself when I was spaced out?" he asked analytically. Kurama was quick to respond, "No. Not even once." Naruto silently trailed behind Sakura as Kurama continued, "Although, I do sense a tiny amount of magic coming from that mark." Naruto mulled over Kurama's words for a few minutes and flashed Sakura a bright grin in between when she looked back at him. She turned around to face forward again and his grin too vanished once again. "This can't be a coincidence," he said to Kurama after a while. "A massive amount of magic energy pops out of nowhere and suddenly I have a mark on my hand containing magic energy for no reason. There's no way that these two events aren't related." His frown deepened. "The only question is, what?" He shook his head a little. "No, that's wrong. That's not the only question. The only thing I've pieced out is that these two events are related. Other than that, I have nothing. For instance, why is this happening in the first place? Is it focused on me, or does this involve a group? Is this a plot to kill me or is it something else? There's too many possibilities. I just can't figure out." He clenched his fists tightly and narrowed his eyes even more, to the point where he was glaring. "To make matters worse, I have absolutely no way of finding any information. Information that I need. Damn it, if only I had my shadow clones, then I could easily search for and find everything in record time. But I don't have my chakra, which means that searching an entire city alone for something that most people don't even know about is the most idiotic decision I can make. Especially since I seem to be involved and don't even have Kurama's negative emotion sensing to aid me." Kurama interrupted Naruto's dissection of the situation to offer some advice. "Naruto, at this point you can't do anything. Right now, all you need to do is keep living life as you always have and keep your guard up. You're involved in this now, whatever it is. That means that something or someone is almost definitely going to come to her for you. That's why, it'd be best if you remained on your guard till that mark disappears." Kurama paused for a second as he thought about something and then continued. "You can sleep at night. I'll remain awake while you're asleep. Don't forget though, I can't possess your body anymore. You'll have to sleep light. I'll wake you up if anything abnormal appears." Naruto relaxed and let out a weary smile. "Yeah, I'll have to be careful for an unknown amount of time, but this is all that we can do." "Thanks, Kurama." He could just feel the giant fox's grin. "Of course, someone has to do the thinking around here." "Shut up." School had ended and the sun was setting, bathing the whole campus in a red glow. Naruto and Issei were standing and talking in the empty hallway, just about getting ready to leave before the sun fully set. "I honestly thought I would have to hold you back from trying to hurt Shinji again when he insulted you yesterday, but I didn't know that you had acquired so much patience to completely ignore his taunts. If I hadn't seen it personally and someone had told me that you had done something like that, then I would have laughed in their face. I'm really surprised and glad, Naruto." Naruto whipped his head towards his friend and scowled. That guy insulted me. What did he say? Actually, don't tell me, just tell me where to find him. I need to introduce his face to the ground. He raged. Issei sighed in disappointment and disbelief. Of course. I shouldn't have expected anything less. The only reason you dealt with his insults so calmly was because you just weren't paying attention. Naruto dropped his scowl and laughed sheepishly. Ha 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 ha, yeah, I didn't pay attention to anything the entire day yesterday. That was my bad. Issei sighed again before he looked out the window. Ah, it seems we got too caught up in talking. We better leave before the sun sets, he warned. Yeah, you're right, let's go, Naruto agreed. Issei shook his head. I'm sorry, but I still have a few matters that I have to deal with. You go on ahead, it'll take some time before I'm free. Naruto let out an impressed whistle. Wow. The student council president sure has a lot to do. Issei chuckled slightly. Exactly, he confirmed. Get home safe, Naruto. Don't lollygag or wander, okay? Naruto walked down the stairs and waved behind him. Yeah. See ya, Issei. He walked down 2 flights before he heard a voice and some laughter. That sounded like Shinji, Naruto thought to himself. Shinji was entertaining the 2 girls beside him and would have continued doing that if it wasn't for that blonde pseudo-friend of his who was standing there as if he was expecting him. What, you're still here, Emiya? He asked, smirking. Naruto growled, Oi, Shinji. I heard you were talking shit about me yesterday. If you want your kick, just say so. He finished with a yell. The 2 girls beside Shinji took a few steps back from the confrontation as Shinji's smirk grew in size. Of course it took you 1 whole day to respond to my comment, Emiya. I should have expected nothing less. His brought up his hands in mock exasperation. Truly, your stupidity has no equal. Naruto clenched his fists and barely restrained the urge to pummel the purple-haired boy. Honestly, Shinji had absolutely no idea why they were friends. Naruto just had this weird personality that brought people he interacted with to his side. He himself had been roped in when they were in middle school. Anyone who had tried to do something bad to the blonde had found themselves shunned by all their peers, and any rumors started about him were shut down instantly. All because of him. To be honest, Naruto's personality and charisma made him jealous. If Naruto actually tried, then he could probably become the most popular guy in the school. All he had to do was talk to a few people and he'd be set. But, for some reason, Naruto was always stuck in his own world. It was as if he didn't care whether he passed or failed, nor did he care much about anything else, except for the archery club, and that was only because he had challenged Naruto and said that he would never be able to hit a bullseye 10 times in a row. It wasn't like he hated everyone. On the contrary, he would greet anyone who came up to talk to him with a bright grin, and a few minutes later it was almost like you were childhood friends or something. It was as if the only reason he was in class was because it was mandatory, not because it would help his future or anything, as if he was aiming for something that this place simply could not help him with. Well, whatever. It wasn't like thinking about this would lead to anything. All he had to do right now was get rid of the easily aggravated blonde and go to the store with the girls. Shinji's smirk turned incredibly devious. Naruto, Fujimura-sensei told me to tell you to clean the archery club dojo. Naruto made a face of confusion. Why? Shinji gave a sharp glare to the girl who was about to say something before he gave his pseudo-friend a relaxed grin. I don't know, something about punishment for quitting the club, I think. He put a hand on the whiskered teen's shoulder. You should probably hurry up though. Don't want to be late for dinner, do you? Naruto looked out the window before he ran down the stairs in panic. I'll kick you later, Shinji. I gotta hurry up and clean the dojo for that damn Taiga. He yelled behind him. Hey, what a naive guy. With the work Taiga gave him taken care of, the only thing he had left to do now was enjoy his time with the girls. There was no doubt about it. He really was amazingly smart. By the time he finished cleaning the dojo, night had fallen and the moon was hanging high up in the sky. After putting all the supplies back and smoothing out his clothes, Naruto stretched his arms until he heard a satisfying crack. Naruto, you know that purple-haired womanizer was lying to you, right? Kurama asked. Naruto froze. What, he was? He exclaimed. Kurama let out a giant sigh and face-palmed. I can't believe you fell for that. Why are you even friends with him? Naruto puzzled over the question for a second before he answered. He wasn't like this before, you know. He was still arrogant, yes, but he used to be a lot nicer. Now though, I don't know what happened to him, but now he's this. I wanna help him before I leave. He halted his explanation as soon as he heard the distinct sound of metal clashing against metal. What? I thought people only used melee weapons against one another in official competitions in this world, the blonde thought to himself. Are you going to go check it out? Kurama asked cautiously. Naruto considered his options for a second. Yeah, the timing's way too weird. I have to check it out. It may be my only way to gain some more info on the situation. Then be careful, Kurama warned, you have nothing in your arsenal except for your physical abilities. The whiskered teen resolutely nodded before he quietly ran towards the source of all the noise. As he got closer, the cacophony of metal clashing against metal got louder and increased in pace. The time of silence in between the clashes has reduced to the point where even the most skilled human in this dimension can't keep up. I don't know if Magecraft can increase a person's speed to this point, but even if it can, that means that something supernatural is occurring over there, Naruto analyzed. A few seconds later, he turned a corner and gazed upon the source of all the noise. Just a little further away from him, there were two people fighting. One wore some kind of red and black garb while the other wore some kind of blue and silver bodysuit. The one dressed in red and black was using two Chinese-style short swords. One was colored black, while the other one was white. On the other hand, the one dressed in the blue and silver bodysuit was utilizing a glowing red spear with intricate designs on it. In an instant, the two broke apart and the one with the spear crouched and placed his spear in a diagonal line in front of him. The spear let out some sort of visible red energy that instantly put the other on guard. Naruto took a small step forward to take a closer look at what the spearman was doing. It was just a small step, but it was enough to catch the spearman's attention. Who's there? The man in blue yelled as he disabled his technique. Shit, I've gotten rusty. Naruto berated himself as he took off towards the entrance of the school building. What are you going to do? Kurama asked with an undertone of urgency in his voice. I'm gonna run into the school. That man, when he was fighting the guy in red, instead of stabbing, he was slashing a whole lot more. If I move into the school, then he'll be forced down to only stabbing, Naruto replied as he ran. But that means that you won't have anywhere to dodge either. The only place you'll be able to dodge is backwards. Considering the length of his spear, you'll be hit for sure. Kurama protested. The blonde teen let out a confident smirk and rebutted the Biju's statement. Not true. If the school corridors were only corridors, then you would be right. He skidded and shot through the entrance of the school as he continued explaining his plan to his tenant. Thing is, a corridor inside a school is filled with things like classrooms and stairs. I know this terrain better than him, probably, and that means that I can utilize all the areas in the school better than him. Not only that, but I also know what's going to come up next if I head in a certain direction. That means that I can make plans based on the upcoming areas, while the only thing he can do is chase me. Naruto rushed up the stairs and swiftly ran into the corridor. Instead of continuing to run though, he stopped to look back, hoping to see the intimidating figure of the man in the bodysuit. Only, there was nothing but air behind him. What? Is he waiting for me outside? Did he figure out my plan? He asked himself. He waited for a split second more before Kurama frantically yelled out a warning. Behind you. Naruto didn't hesitate. He leapt forward as far as he could and twisted his body at the same time. As soon as he touched the ground again, he found himself facing the man in blue and silver holding out his spear out as if he was stabbing someone. "Who?" the spearman crowed, "you've got good reflexes." Lancer was impressed. This kid had managed to dodge a blow that he hadn't even seen coming. Well, with the amount of killing intent he was leaking and how slowly he thrust out his spear, it wouldn't really be that impressive for someone in his era to be able to dodge that. But the blonde kid wasn't from his era. He was from this one. An era full of complacent people, who never actually faced each other in combat. This kid was an odd one. So he asked, "What's your name, kid?" Even if the kid was about to die, he still wanted to know his name. What could he say? He was interested. The whiskered kid smirked a little shakily. "Naruto," he said, "Uzumaki Emiya Naruto." Lancer too gave him a smirk. "You can call me Lancer," he introduced before continuing. "I'm sorry, Naruto, but you won't survive this night." His red eyes narrowed. "Dead men tell no tales and whatnot. Curse the fact that you were born with no power or luck." His voice was grave. The blonde smirk stabilized and his cerulean eyes danced menacingly. "I won't die here, nor will I die tonight." The kid's smirk morphed into a malicious smile. "If you think you can kill me, then why don't you try?" The kid asked confidently, as if he was sure of his own victory. Hey, if the kid wanted to be killed so badly, then who was he to deny him? Lancer raised his spear into a charging position and rushed towards Naruto. "Here I come." Shit, the only reason I was able to dodge was because of Kurama's negative emotion sensing and the fact that he vastly underestimated me. I can't fight him right now, especially not in this terrain. He has the definite advantage if we fight here. The blonde shifted to a looser stance. But if I try to escape using this terrain, then that advantage becomes mine, he thought to himself as he waited for Lancer to charge. "Here I come," Lancer yelled, and contrary to his expectation, instead of dodging backwards or rushing towards him, Naruto bolted towards the side and crashed through a classroom door. Lancer lost his smirk and stopped his charge after barely missing the blonde, and then, he too rushed inside after him. There he was. There, right in front of Lancer, was his crafty opponent who was rushing towards the other end of the room. Lancer smirked again and once again charged towards him, only to stab nothing but air again as the infuriating teen once again barreled through another door that led back out to the same corridor that they had entered from and barely dodged his attack. "TCH, you're not gonna make this easy for me, are ya, kid?" Lancer wondered out loud before rushing after the blonde again. The only problem was, the hallway was completely empty with no signs of shattered windows or anything. Where did he go? The ancient spearman wondered to himself as he looked around. He walked a little towards the direction that he was sure that he heard the blonde go towards. Now that I think about it, his footsteps are really quiet. I could barely hear them while he was running. He let out a quiet chuckle. Well, he messed up the first time I heard him. His eyes glowed with unholy intensity. One of the last mistakes of his life. He walked a few more steps before he came upon another flight of stairs. Now, which way did you go? Up or down? He wondered aloud before he spotted a piece of brown cloth, no doubt belonging to his elusive opponent, caught under the railing on the flight of stairs heading upwards. He let out another chuckle, then ran up the stairs, unwilling to let his target get away. Sounds like he fell for it, Naruto thought to himself as he stayed crouching on the bottom floor, underneath the stairs. After a few seconds of deliberation, Naruto got up and quietly ran for the exit. He turned the corner and ran past the lockers, but before he could make it out the door, two new figures appeared in front of him. One man and one girl, both dressed in red. Before they could say anything though, Naruto barreled past them and told the girl in a barely audible voice. "Sorry Tasaka, but I gotta go. Have fun with your date." Date? Why you're wrong. This guy's not my date. Rin yelled at the fleeing blonde boy, blushing bright red. The message failed to reach him however, since he had already left. "Rin, what do you want to do? Do you want me to track Lancer?" Her servant asked calmly. She considered her options for a second, before she responded. No, we follow Emiya-kun, silently. We don't want him to know we're there. Archer turned to his master and raised an eyebrow. May I ask why? Rin responded instantly. Lancer is a servant, she explained in a matter-of-fact tone. Giving him the slip isn't that easy. There's no doubt in my mind that Lancer will be able to track down Emiya-kun. When that happens, we'll catch Lancer by surprise while he's trying to kill Emiya-kun. Archer nodded slightly. That's a good plan, but I hope that's the only reason. The black-haired girl blushed slightly. Oh, of course. There's no other reason at all. She clapped her hands together angrily. Now shut up. We have to get going. There's no telling how far he's gotten. Archer shrugged his shoulders calmly. Right. Why are you still running, Naruto? Kurama asked curiously. That guy, there's no way he won't be able to track me. His senses are way too sharp, the whiskered blonde explained. I have to make it back home before he manages to catch up. All my weapons are there, not to mention that I have the home field advantage there. Home field advantage? What do you mean by that? Naruto was quick to answer. It means that I have the lay of the land while he doesn't. I know the dimensions of the house and don't need to look around to figure out where everything else is placed, since I already know based on my current position. He smirked a little at his plan. My advantage is that Lancer has to constantly look around to reaffirm his position, while I don't have to worry about anything like that. He's much stronger than me at the moment, so every disadvantage counts. This plan isn't as foolproof as you're explaining, correct? Kurama deduced. Naruto lost his smirk. Yeah. Lancer is an experienced fighter, so he can deduce his surroundings in an instant, and he probably only has to look around once to find out the relative position of everything. The only time he has to look around again is when he changes the direction that he's looking at and his position at the same time. If I keep him where he is and let him face just one direction, then he'll have to look around only once. The only chance I have is to disorient him in my terrain. Even then, after a while he'll probably get used to where everything is. I can't let this fight drag on. Are you going to fight inside the house? Kurama wondered. No, my dodging space is severely limited there, and it has just enough space for him to wave about his spear however he wants. Fighting in there is suicide. Kurama had one last question. Do you think you can win? The fight between Lancer and that guy in red flashed in his mind once again, and he forced a smile. Of course. Looks like you were expecting me, kid, Lancer said in an easy-going voice after a second of tense silence. I was, Naruto replied, on guard. The two were standing in the Emiya household's backyard. Normally they wouldn't have been able to see each other at such a time in the night, at least Naruto wouldn't have been able to, but the moon hanging high up in the sky did a fine job of solving that problem. I honestly didn't expect you to be able to trick me like that. A feat like that deserves praise, Lancer said, quite impressed. I see. So as a prize for managing to trick you, would you mind telling me what the hell is going on here? Lancer let out a small laugh. I wouldn't mind, but sadly, this whole thing is supposed to be a secret. So you can see why I can't tell you anything. Naruto sighed in disappointment. I thought so. You wouldn't be killing me if you actually could tell me anything about this. While he was speaking on the outside, he was also furiously analyzing all the information he'd gained on the inside. He says that he has to keep this whole thing a secret, and back in school, there were two people fighting. At least now I know that this isn't some elaborate plot based around me. It also seems like Tosa. Focus. Here he comes. Kurama warned suddenly. Naruto barely noticed the spear heading for him in time for him to dodge a fatal blow. Gah! The spear had still managed to graze his arm though. You really do have good reflexes, Lancer praised, but that won't save you from death. In an instant he was once again in front of the blonde teen, and this time, the young man had no time to react. Lancer's foot shot out and nailed Naruto right in the stomach. The whiskered dimension traveler coughed up blood as he flew across the backyard. Shit, I made a mistake, he lamented as he crashed through the door of the workshop and landed inside of it. My plan depended on me being able to keep up with Lancer, but the way I am now, I can barely even react to any of his movements. He put a hand on the wall for support as he struggled to get up. He was out of options, and not only that, but his only way out the workshop was blocked by the very same person who put him in this position. Lancer raised his spear while Rin, on the rooftop, tensed her muscles along with her servant. Naruto too, prepared himself to respond to any attacks that Lancer made, and as he did, the blood from his cut slid down his arm and dropped onto the faded, white-colored magic circle below. Before any of the four could make a move, the magic circle underneath the blonde activated in a gust of wind and flash of bright light. The seventh servant, Lancer yelled in surprise as he blocked a swift blow that still managed to send him tumbling outside. There, in front of Naruto, was a petite blonde woman dressed in a blue and white dress and silver armor. Instead of chasing Lancer outside, the mysterious woman turned back towards the whiskered teen and asked, "I ask of you, are you my master?" Naruto's response was delivered clearly and without hesitation. "No." The female warrior stumbled slightly. What do you Maya? I'm sorry lady," the young man apologized, "somebody prank called you or something. I'm pretty sure I didn't order a hooker who specializes in cosplay and S&M. Hooker. Yo, you're wrong, I'm not a hooker." The blonde-haired lady protested. "Your servant, Saber, has come in response to your summons," she said, raising her voice in indignation while trying to explain the situation. Naruto let out a nervous laugh. "All right. I'm sorry, but please go home now. I seriously did not order a teleporting hooker." Lancer chose this moment to intervene from the backyard. "You guys done over there? Can we start this battle now?" he asked, a little tired from waiting for them to finish up their argument. Rin face-palmed. "Sue, how do we do this pact thing?" Naruto asked, scratching his head. While she wasn't one to show much emotion, this time, Saber judged it appropriate to let out a large sigh of relief. After all, it had taken 3 whole minutes to convince him that no, she was not some sort of hooker, and it had taken 2 more minutes to convince him that becoming a master was not synonymous to becoming some kind of a pimp. It was a good thing that Lancer found this situation amusing enough not to interrupt. Deciding not to let go of this chance, especially after trying to convince him for 5 freaking minutes, Saber quickly said the words that would seal the pact. "My sword will henceforth be at your side, your fate is henceforth my fate." She made a stony expression as the swirling air in her hands glowed golden for a split second. "The pact is now sealed," she announced resolutely. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he felt his right hand burn and some strange energy act up inside of him. "This feeling, I've felt it somewhere before." Lancer deemed this moment the most prudent to interject. "Seriously, can we please start fighting already? I mean, you guys are done, right?" "My apologies, Lancer," Saber apologized as she calmly walked out the workshop. "I thank you for your patience." "Have no worries, we may start our battle now." Lancer smirked. "Finally. I was getting worried that this would take all night," he complained exasperatedly before crouching a bit and bringing his spear in front of him. "Let's have a fun battle," he announced excitedly. Saber gave him a firm nod before she shot towards him at a speed where human eyes could no longer keep track of her. Lancer reacted quickly and blocked the left to right downward diagonal slash aimed at his chest before they both separated and clashed in a flurry of blows. In an instant, both fighters moved around as they parried and dodged their opponent's strikes. Meanwhile, Naruto scowled as he walked to the door of the workshop to watch the battle. Up on the rooftop, Rin too narrowed her eyes to watch the battle and glean some information about her enemies. Back in the backyard, the two fighters had not let up on each other. Saber focused her eyes on her enemy and sent him tumbling with a particularly hard blow. Lancer quickly back-flipped and landed on his feet. His eyes shifted away from his opponent to drink in his new position for only a second. But that second was enough. Saber didn't hesitate to take advantage of the opening. She appeared in front of Lancer like lightning and struck him with a blow that he was barely able to block. Lancer flew backwards but managed to stabilize himself in time to block her next blow. He pushed her away and leapt towards her in an effort to finish her off, but Saber was prepared. Once again, the two ancient warriors clashed in a torrent of strikes and parries. That Lancer guy, he's trying to keep the fight in the middle of the field, so that he doesn't have to look around too much. It's a sound strategy. If he's in the middle of the field, then he doesn't have to worry about accidentally being cornered into a wall, Naruto dissected before looking at his own servant. Saber, on the other hand, is trying to do the exact opposite. She's trying to push him to the borders so that she can utilize the openings he creates to look around. Kurama chose this moment to chime in, so, she's basically using your plan then. Naruto nodded. Yeah, your plan didn't exactly work well though, Kurama pointed out. Naruto frowned. That's because I couldn't keep up with Lancer with the way I am now. She, on the other hand, can keep up just fine. Impressive, Kurama praised. Naruto narrowed his eyes even more. Yeah it is, but... He trailed off hesitantly. What is it? Kurama asked curiously. The blonde boy did not respond. Coward, what's the meaning of this, concealing your weapon? Lancer yelled. Saber sliced at him, to which, he dodged backwards. They stood in silence for a second, gauging each other's abilities and reviewing the information gained during the battle before the blonde-haired servant spoke up. What's the matter, Lancer? She asked, her voice holding a slight undertone of goading. If you simply stand there, you will give Spearman a bad name. She tensed her muscles. If you will not come to me, then I shall go to you. Lancer readied himself. Before you do, let me ask you one thing. Your noble phantasm, is it a sword? Saber remained as stone-faced as ever. Perhaps, perhaps not, she answered tauntingly. It may be a battle axe. Or perhaps it is a polearm. She raised her invisible weapon and primed it. Or who knows, it might even be a bow, Lancer. Naruto's eye twitched. Bullshit, you clearly said, my sword will henceforth be at your side, when you made the pact. If you wanna trick people with stuff like this, then don't give them all the damn info beforehand. He mentally raged before turning to Lancer. And you, why the hell are you asking such a stupid question? Very funny, swordsman, Lancer sarcastically commended while twirling his lance. See, you already knew. Why the hell did you ask, then? The whiskered teen raved. Lancer crouched then hurtled towards Saber. She was prepared and managed to block, but Lancer's strength combined with his momentum sent her skidding quite a ways back. Almost so that her back was touching the wall of the house. Yet, she did not take her eyes off her opponent. Lancer leapt at her once again and brought his spear down from the right side. Hey, gotcha, he thought to himself as he descended upon her. You think well in the heat of battle, that's why I'm sure this will work. Right now, the two of your most sensible options are, 1, to dodge backwards, which will allow you to counterattack as I try and bring the spear back in position in time to block, or 2, to dodge to my left, which will allow me to keep my momentum and pressure, while you will have to stay on the defensive. He let out a tiny grin. The choice is obvious here. No doubt, you will try to dodge backwards, but behind you there's a wall. That slight distraction will allow me to win. Your mistake was keeping your eyes focused on me, Saber. Lancer slashed, and contrary to his expectations, Saber did not dodge backwards. Instead, she took the other option and dodged to his left. His eyes widened in shock, but he was an experienced warrior. This surprising move didn't slow him down one bit. Using the momentum of the spear, Lancer turned his body to the left and began a relentless barrage upon Saber's lithe form. Saber, not one to lose so easily, kept stepping back as she fended off the onslaught of blows coming from Lancer. This continued on for a few more seconds, before Lancer leapt backwards and halted the ongoing pace of the battle. Well, he started jovially, I would unleash my noble phantasm right about now, but I really don't want that servant up there to see it. He slung his spear on his shoulder and started walking away from her. My lord is a coward, you see, he said as he raised his arms in a what can you do manner. He doesn't want me to engage against two opponents at the same time, nor does he want me to keep fighting an opponent while another one is watching. Are you running away? Saber yelled, indignant. Lancer chuckled. You can chase me if you want. He looked back at Saber with ruby eyes dancing with killing intent. If you think your master can handle fighting another servant, of course. With that, he leapt away. The blonde-haired ancient warrior grimaced and looked back at her master calmly walking towards her. Stay here for a second, master, she ordered in a precise tone, I shall deal with the servant observing us. She prepared to leap on to the rooftop to engage the other servant in battle while Archer 2 prepared himself. Before anything could happen though, Naruto put a hand on Saber's shoulder and addressed the two observers. I really don't get what's going on here, so can we please all calm down for a second? Saber glared at him as she swatted his hand away. What are you doing, master? She asked sharply. They are our enemies. Naruto gave her a pleading stare. Enemies in what? He asked with a little bite and frustration leaking in his voice. I have absolutely no idea what's going on here. The only information I got from your explanation was that you're a warrior on my team who calls herself a servant. And the fact that you're not a hooker. He turned to look at the rooftop again, and asked the duo on the rooftop amicably. Can we just not fight right now? He shook his head a little exasperatedly and shrugged his shoulders. There's no point in fighting without one of the combatants even knowing the reason, right? The party of two on the rooftop said nothing for a few seconds, before Tasaka's smug voice rang out. Very well, she responded as she jumped to the ground, I'll hear out your request and explain everything to you. She started walking towards the entrance of the house but turned to Naruto after taking a few steps and made a small face of realization. Ah, I almost forgot, she said as she bowed, good evening, Emayu-kun. Saber discreetly twitched at the name and repeated it under her breath while Naruto raised his hand in front of him, dumbfounded at the casual greeting, and stammered out. Right, good evening. Tasaka gave a satisfied smirk and ordered. Well, it's cold here, so let's head inside. Don't worry, my servant will stay on your rooftop and keep watch. She proceeded to slide open the glass door leading into the house. I'm sure there's a lot you want to know. Once everyone had taken a seat and gotten comfortable, Rin started her explanation. To be blunt, you've been chosen as a. Naruto abruptly raised his hand to stop her. Just a second, he stopped her as he turned to look at Saber, who was sitting behind him like some sort of maid or something. Why the hell aren't you sitting at the table? Saber gave him an icy stare that almost made him shiver. I am a servant. Stop saying weird stuff and just come sit like a normal person, he ordered, sighing. Quote. The three spent a second in tense, unbearable silence before the warrior in blue complied. Very well, she said in an even tone. Rin let out a nervous laugh. Well, she started with a nervous clap of her hands. Now that that's settled, we can finally get down to business. She let go of her nervous demeanor and looked gravely at the blonde boy. Emayu-kun, you've been chosen as a master in this war. Have you noticed a brand somewhere on your body? Naruto. The unexplainable mark on my hand. He raised his right hand up to his face and instead of there simply being a red smudge, in its place there was an abstract design broken up into three parts that oddly resembled a sword. Do you mean this? He asked, displaying the back of his hand to the girl in red. Said girl nodded. Yes, those. That's the mark that brands you as a master. They're also spells to control your servant. Meaning, as long as you have them, you can control your servant. As long as I have them? The orange-loving blonde asked, can you explain how this works? In simple terms please. Rin stared at his eyes intensely. Command seals are inviolable orders. You can command a servant to do anything you want, irrelevant of whether they want or not. She stuck out 3 fingers. You only get 3 though, so don't waste them. Naruto frowned. This sounds a lot like slavery. I don't like it. Rin waved a hand in front of her face. That's not all they're used for. Command seals are crystallizations of great magic, so they have a lot of power and uses. Naruto gave her an inquisitive look. She put a finger on her chin and thought for a second. Suppose you went to town and didn't bring your servant with you, and suddenly you get attacked. At that point you can use a command seal to order your servant to come to you. The seal will use its powerful magic and summon your servant to your location. She thought some more before giving another example, or you could power up your servant's next attack with the command seal so that the next attack will be twice as powerful as possible. The list of things you can or can't do is quite long. Naruto examined the black-haired girl's words for a second before he realized something. We've been talking about all this absolute commands and stuff, but I just noticed, we haven't even exchanged names, he noted, addressing the blonde woman. My name is Naruto, Uzumaki Emiya Naruto. Saber pondered over his name and her response for a few seconds before she answered curtly, it is better if you do not know my true name. If I tell you my name, it could put us at a disadvantage in this war. Naruto sighed exasperatedly, Come-un. I don't even know what to call you then. Saber nodded, you can call me Saber. That is my class and designation. Naruto's eye twitched but he didn't voice any displeasure. Well, at least I have something to call you now. Rin chose this moment to interject, Uzumaki. I didn't know that Emiya was your middle name. Naruto turned to look back at her, it's not. Uzumaki was my last name before I was adopted by Kuritsugu. Uzumaki and Emiya are both my last names. Rin nodded, I see. Quote. They all sat in silence for a few seconds before Naruto suddenly slammed his hand down on the table and yelled to get everyone back on track. Way, what is this war that you guys are talking about? And why can't Saber reveal her name? If there was a war going on, people would have noticed, right? I don't get what's going on at all. Rin let him finish unloading his barrage of questions before she started on her explanation. To make it short, you've been dragged into a ritual. A ritual where 7 mages, called masters, fight to the death with their corresponding servants. Naruto opened his mouth to ask another question, but she continued speaking so as to not suffer through any more interruptions. This ritual is a giant death tournament to obtain the Holy Grail. Thus, it is called the Holy Grail War. Once again, Naruto opened his mouth to ask a question, and once again, she blatantly ignored his attempt and continued speaking. Think of servants as familiars granted to you by the Holy Grail. Although they're technically familiars, they're actually legendary heroes from the past. That's why Saber didn't tell you her name. If she did and someone else found out, then they would be able to figure out her weaknesses based on her history and legend. Crap, I've never taken the history of this world seriously. I won't be able to figure out any opponents' weaknesses, Naruto nervously thought to himself. Rin continued on, oblivious to his thoughts. The Holy Grail summons these heroes, and after that, it's up to us to provide them with enough mana to keep them in this world. Of course, the amount of mana consumption would be insane if it was just the master's responsibility, so the Holy Grail helps out. Naruto narrowed his eyes, I can't control mana at all. Meaning, I can't give Saber any. Does that mean she will disappear soon? He opened his mouth to ask a question and once again found himself overruled. I have a really important question, damn it. Anyway, servants are usually spirit form, and you can materialize them to make them fight. This reduces mana drain and normal people are less likely to see them. She gave him a cheerful smile. Any questions? Naruto's eye twitched violently. This bitch. She merrily clapped her hands. None. Great. He most certainly did not panic. Wait. I have a question. Yes. His face settled into a cool stare. You gave me all this information, but you neglected to tell me the most important piece of information. Oh, why? Why are all the masters aiming to kill each other? What does this Holy Grail do? He paused for a few seconds before adding another statement. There's a lot more questions that I want to ask, but that one's the most important. Rin frowned. For a more detailed explanation about this war, we have to go talk to the overseer of this war. She flashed him a grin. Get ready for a long walk. Emiya of the archer class was horribly confused. Everything in this timeline was exactly the same, except for one fact. A certain red-haired high schooler was missing. He didn't know what had happened, but whatever. Since so much had changed, creating the paradox would be much easier now. All he had to do now was help Rin win. He would end this repeating cycle of despair. For sure. Changing out of his dirty clothes, Naruto put on an orange zip-up hoodie which he left unzipped to display the black t-shirt underneath. Under them he wore dark blue jeans and gray sports shoes. Overall, he looked like a normal teenager going out for a walk. Rin gave him an appraising look, and smirked. You don't look as terrible as I imagined you would look, Emiya-kun. I'm surprised. Naruto's eye twitched once again as he tried to ignore her backhanded compliment. Hey, Tasaka, has this Holy Grail War ever happened before? Rin, ever the expert on the subject, answered without hesitation, yes, 4 other times. Usually the Holy Grail War happens every 60 years, but the last one happened just 10 years ago. This is the 5th one. She looked to the blonde boy and voiced her own question, why do you ask? Naruto hummed, glancing at Saber. This time, Rin's eye twitched, but she didn't inquire any further. Quote. They walked in silence for about 10 minutes, before Naruto voiced a prevalent thought in his head. Saber, stop walking behind me. It's annoying. Saber considered his order for a few seconds before she complied. Albeit, a little reluctantly. It was strange for her, a servant, to be treated like this by a master. Strange, but not unpleasant. It seems that Kusugu and his son were quite different from each other. While Saber was analyzing her master's nature, Rin spoke up to inform Naruto of a thought that had been nagging at her for some time. You know, with the amount of questions you had, I thought you would ask why Saber doesn't seem to be awed or surprised by the modern world. Saber's attention snapped to the conversation at the mention of her name, while Rin put her hands up in a questioning manner. Maybe I overestimated your perceptiveness. Naruto turned to her and gave her a confused look. Isn't it obvious that she already knows about this stuff? I mean, when she was first summoned, she recognized what a hooker was, even though they probably didn't use that word in the past. Also, she looks foreign but can speak completely fluent Japanese. He shook his head. These points make it obvious that she already has some information about our era. Saber's emerald eyes frosted over as she remembered the events of her summoning. Meanwhile, Rin was examining the information that she had gained from his statement. He's smarter than I gave him credit for, she claimed, a little impressed at his reasoning. Plus, Naruto started, snapping her out of her thoughts. Saber was summoned in the last Holy Grail War as well. Saber blanched as her eyes widened in surprise. How? Probably under Kuritsugu, he continued, ignoring the petite blonde's question. Rin's head whipped towards Saber. Is that true? She asked, surprised. Saber walked in stunned silence for a few seconds, before she answered. Yes, I was summoned under the Saber class 10 years ago, just like my designation now, and it was Emiya Kuritsugu who summoned me. Rin didn't hold back her surprise. What are the chances? She paused for a second. And how did you know, Emiya-kun? It's clear that Saber didn't tell you. The orange-wearing boy put a hand on his chin. Well, the first time this possibility came in my head was when Lancer was fighting Saber. Every time they changed positions, Lancer had to look around for a split second to reorient himself, but Saber didn't do that at all. In fact, she actually used that to her advantage and kept her eyes trained on him the entire time. Around the end, when Lancer cornered her on that wall, she had 2 choices. Jump back or jump to his left. She hadn't taken her eyes off Lancer even once and should have had no clue that she was cornered. So, in her perspective, jumping back should have clearly been the more advantageous option. Rin finished his train of thought, but she didn't, even when she should have. Naruto nodded. Exactly. Why did she dodge to his left, when clearly dodging backwards was the better option? He asked slowly before answering his own question. I could tell that Lancer was an experienced warrior, so there's no doubt that he didn't let his expression or eyes indicate anything. After thinking about it and considering all the information I had, I narrowed the cause down to 3 different possibilities. He stuck out his index finger. Possibility number 1. Her invisible sword is invisible to everyone except her, which allowed her to look at the reflection of the wall behind her on her sword and dodge appropriately. This was the likeliest option at the time. He brought up his middle finger to display alongside his index finger. Possibility number 2. She has a special skill which lets her sense her surroundings. Clearly Lancer didn't know about it, so if this option was the right one, then this skill would only be exclusive to her. He brought up his ring finger to display alongside the other 2. And finally, possibility number 3, she'd been in the Emiya residence before and was already familiar with the terrain and surroundings. At the time, this was least likeliest option. Rin thought over the points he had made and asked, what made you come to the conclusion that she was summoned in previous Holy Grail War? First of all, Naruto started, reminiscent of a teacher explaining a concept to his students. Her reaction was really suspicious when you called me, Emiya-kun, in the backyard. At that point, option number 3 became the most likely. Second, I know that Kuritsugu got this house around 10 years ago, and when you compare that piece of info to the fact that the last Holy Grail War also happened 10 years ago, the truth shows itself. That's the only other time that she could have been in this house. Rin gaped for a few seconds before her mind started working on overdrive. Emiya-kun, it's not that I overestimated him, it's the complete opposite. I vastly underestimated him. Not only did he give Lancer the slip, but he also managed to figure out all this with barely any information. He's much more perceptive than I gave him credit for. She gave him a quick glance. He looks like he's thinking deeply about something. There's no doubt about it, he's probably thinking of some massive strategy to win this entire war. I need to be careful. Meanwhile, Naruto was indeed thinking about something deeply. I had way too much information dumped into my head. I want some ramen to relieve this headache. His eyes glared sharply at the road ahead of him, but which flavor should I choose? Miso, pork, maybe beef. This is serious. Only one flavor can heal my soul. Rin glanced at him from the corner of her eye again. He looks like he's making some kind of dangerous plan. I have to be careful. It's almost like he's getting ready for something big. Meanwhile, per to Rin's thoughts, Naruto was indeed getting ready for something big. Eeny meeny miny mo. Miso ramen it is. I can't wait to get back home. He thought to himself as he smiled. Rin saw his smile and came to a frightening conclusion. He's formulated his plan. I have to figure it out. Naruto's smile widened. Miso ramen. Miso ramen, I love you. Fortunately for Rin, Saber decided to interrupt both their thought processes. Master. Wait, Saber, Naruto interrupted. Call me Naruto, it feels really weird when you call me Master. Saber nodded. Very well, Naruto then. Yes, that seems acceptable, she noted. As I was saying, have you made any plans or strategies? It would be wise to strategize, considering that I can't enter spirit form, or the fact that you are unable to give me any mana. Rin made a face of surprise. Really? She asked, shocked. I knew you didn't have any offensive magic since you didn't use any against Lancer, but you can't even give Saber any mana. That's some really basic stuff. Naruto sighed despondently. Yeah, I can't use any magic at all. I have the circuits but I can't use it no matter what. Kuritsugu and I already tried. We never found out the reason though. Rin made sound of consideration. I see, No wonder you didn't stand a chance against Lancer. Naruto laughed a little sheepishly before a thought struck him. Come to think of it, I've fought way faster guys than Lancer. I should have been able to keep up with him, even without magic or chakra. What's going on, Naruto? Kurama addressed, your body has reverted, you know. All that muscle memory that you gained from fighting those enemies is gone. Kurama explained, phrasing the last word like a question, I don't know actually. Rather than your body being reverted, it's more like it's being suppressed. It's like this entire world was trying to erase you, but your own power fought back to keep you in existence. I think you having the Yang Six Paths power is the only reason you're still alive. Why did I turn into a 7-year-old then? Naruto asked curiously. Your Yang Six Paths power is powerful, but you were and still are up against the world, you know. Kurama explained, even if it couldn't fully erase you, it still managed to suppress you to the point where 10 years of your life were stored deep inside of you and your ability to expel any sort of energy was robbed from you. In fact, I think that if that mysterious healing sheet hadn't been implanted in you, then you would have lost all your memories too. You mean that sheet healed my mind? Naruto asked, confused. No, the fox denied, it healed your body, but I don't think it has the ability to heal someone's mind. Then what do you mean when you say that it allowed me to keep my memories? Naruto wondered. That sheath, I think it camouflaged your unnaturalness from this world a little, Kurama speculated, so, in response, the world backed off a little and relieved a bit of the pressure. The less unnatural you are, the less the world will try to suppress you. You don't need it now since your mind has stabilized, but back then, it was vital in keeping you alive with your memory intact. Naruto went over the implications of Kurama's words before the Biju spoke up once again. By the way, that sheet is acting up again. I observed it the entire time. It seems like the closer you get to that saber flesh bag, the more it acts up. What's it doing? Naruto inquired. Nothing at the moment, Kurama informed. My guess is that it'll work just like it did 10 years ago. I'll make sure to watch it closely when you're injured. If I'm right, then it should help you heal in a much faster rate than normal. Naruto's eye twitched. When I get injured? What makes you so sure that I'll get injured in the first place? Kurama roared in laughter. Ha! There's no way you're not getting injured. Trouble has a crush on you bigger than that Hinata flesh bags. Naruto grit his teeth. Oh yeah. Well Naruto, are you okay? Saber unknowingly interrupted, a little concerned. Naruto calmed himself down and ignored the nine-tailed fox's growing laughter of superiority as he answered, yeah, why do you ask? Saber tilted her head to the side. You seem to be getting more and more enraged with each passing second. Did something happen? Naruto forced a smile as Kurama's laughter got louder and louder, and nah. I'm perfectly fine. Nothing happened. I just got the sudden urge to kill a fox for some reason. A fox? Saber asked, confused. Naruto rubbed the back of his head as he barely resisted the rapidly growing urge to attack the giant nine-tailed fox inside of him. Ha ha, yeah, don't worry about it, it's something, personal. Yeah, it's just something personal that I, remembered. Saber stared at him suspiciously for a few seconds, but ended up giving him a firm nod. Very well, if this is a personal matter, then I shall not inquire. Naruto gave her a nervous laugh. Ha ha, yeah, thanks. She gave him a small smile, but it vanished so fast that he wondered whether he'd just imagined it or something. She looked back to her front and Naruto used this chance to properly examine her features and behavior. A few seconds went by before Naruto caught something in all the interactions he had had with her. Hey Saber, are you angry at me? He asked tentatively. Saber stiffened a bit but responded in an even tone. No, I am most definitely not. Naruto didn't just give up there, even though this line of thought made him really nervous. Are you sure? It's just it seems like you're really mad at me. Saber did not turn her head to look at him. Why would I be? I have no reason to be mad at you. Naruto rubbed his head. Is this because I called you a hooker? Saber narrowed her eyes and clenched her fists as Rin muffled her laughter from the sidelines. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me, he yelled, bowing his head and clapping his hands together. Saber looked at her master from the corner of her eye and judged his apology. After a few seconds of silent walking, Saber turned her head towards him and sighed. Apology accepted. Naruto, please raise your head, it is undignified for a master to act like this. Naruto complied, why yeah. Thanks. Saber gave him a gentle smile. I'm glad that you have reflected on your actions and I trust that you will not assume a person's occupation in such a manner again. Naruto let his shoulders sag. Yeah. That was my bad, he said, feeling like he was back in Iruka-sensei's class again. Saber nodded her head, satisfied. Good. Rin judged this the appropriate moment to celebrate. Great, she cheered enthusiastically. Now that we've solved this little problem, our walk to the church should be a lot more pleasant. Huh, we're going to a church? Naruto asked, surprised. Rin looked at the astonished boy. Where did you think we were going? I don't know, Naruto exclaimed. I was just kinda following you. Rin let out a large, vexed sigh. He may be perceptive, but there's no doubt that he's also an idiot. She let a small smile creep onto her face. That's not such a bad thing though. I guess it's just one of the things that makes Emi-kun. Her smile faded, and a frown took its place. Now, all that's left, is to have him meet Kotomine. She took a glance at the blonde boy. I wonder how this will go.